Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another Facebook Live session from the Innovative Dad. And good evening, everyone. So I wanted to focus tonight a little bit on this idea called emotion coaching. And it really is like, something that I get frequently asked about is, how do I help my kid when they get all worked up, and I'm getting worked up, and we're all getting worked up, and it's just a hot stinking mess of emotions, and we're in this spiral. And if you really think about it, we do a lot of work with like, okay, well, how do we help our kids learn how to eat independently? And there are different approaches in doing that, but we don't really spend a lot of time, exploring how do we help our kids learn to handle their emotions. And one of the things that we know is that kids who have a better sense of how they're feeling are going to form stronger friendships with other kids, which is something that we want them to do. They're going to calm themselves down more quickly when they get upset. They will do better in school. They'll handle their moods better and have a decrease in the number of negative emotions. And believe it or not, there's research that says having better emotional control will also help your physical health, and they get sick a little less often. So emotion coaching is a technique for parents to use to help kids understand their feelings. And this works with kids at any age. So it's something you can start using with your adolescent, or you can start using with your toddler. So there's 5 steps really to basic emotion coaching. And the first is, look, you got to deal with yourself. If you're not able to be present to help your child, it doesn't matter. So, 1, calm yourself down. And that's sometimes really difficult to do because we got a lot going on in our lives. There's work, there's bills, there's the chores the kids didn't do, the extra homework they came home with, the stuff that was left at school. Oh, wait, this is due tomorrow. Oh, there's a permission slip. And we get all worked up ourselves and really struggle with our own emotional control. So, I really encourage you, tune into your own feelings first. Hit the pause button. Drop whatever your agenda is. If you're like me and you're working through that checklist, put the checklist away and get present. Put the phone down. Put it away. Get it in the charger so it's not with you. Remind yourself that your goal right now is to calm down what's happening and not to make it worse. And oftentimes we build into these escalations with our kids, and all of a sudden what went from being a minor problem is a colossal mess because of our emotions getting into the mix. It's also really important that you just don't take this personally. I know that's hard. You're being screamed at. You're being told you're a horrible parent. I hate you. We've all had that happen with our kids. But remember, you're dealing with somebody. If you can remember, your kids are not fully cooked, even though they, for older kids, they may start to be looking like adults. But if you remember when I talked about executive functioning last week, that skill is still developing, and that emotional control is part of it. So you're not dealing with a fully cooked adult there. So, remind yourself of these things. Notice the sensations in your body. And, if you start to feel annoyed or frustrated, you think about this as an opportunity to build the relationship that you're trying to form with your child. And I think that that's something that, is a great opportunity for us as parents to really, to hone in on what's going on with our kids and to really help them in a very critical way. So step 2 is to connect and create a sense of safety with your child. This is, connecting with them emotionally, physically if you can, if it's appropriate, not dismissing them or avoiding them, giving them the verbal or nonverbal messages that I'm going to help you, that you can handle this. Seeing this as a moment for teaching and for learning. And, look, if you start taking those nice deep breaths, in 1, 2, 3, hold 1, 2, 3, exhale 1, 2, 3, in sort of a really nice, slow, measured way, and start modeling some of the skills that you want to see that's going to build that connection. Step 3 is really about empathy and listening. You want to take your child's emotions seriously. You want to show your child that you understand what they're feeling. And you want to make sure that you're avoiding being judgmental or critical of the emotions. Emotions in and of themselves aren't bad. It's the behaviors that come from them that cause our difficulties. If a problem is being described to you, repeat it back. If you're hearing anger, rather than saying, "You're being angry," and, act appropriate and all that, validate the emotion. Say, "Okay, you must be feeling really upset about that. Tell me what's happening." Start naming the emotions that you're seeing, or reading their body language. Part of that is acknowledging the child's perspective. I know that this isn't what you wanted. You may need to use a little distraction, a little humor in here, as long as it is not suppressing the emotions that the child is having, because you want to help them process it. You don't want to, make this look, dare I say, like stereotypical 1950s America, where, no negative things were portrayed on TV. Making a bit of a stereotype there, but, run with me. And if your child is really emotional and is crying and is all over the place, physical presence is really important. Just, a pat on the back, acknowledge the fact that sometimes everybody needs a good cry. We all do it. And to deny that to your child is, again, telling them to really shut down their emotions and not learn how to deal with them. And that can lead to just deeper psychological issues. So then you want to really, check in and explore with what's going on. So we've been naming these emotions. Name your own emotions. Say, am I getting right what we're talking about? And maybe they'll agree with you and start to elaborate. Or they'll clarify, I'm not angry, I'm anxious. Wow, that's a great breakthrough at that point. And don't get into a tug of war over, I'm labeling the emotion this, and your child is saying to you, no, it's that. Just let that be. They have got to develop this skill, and if you put words in their mouth, then you're not going to help them. And you don't want to put them in that situation and bind them up that way. The next part of this is as you're checking in with them, you're going to deepen your conversation. You're going to validate their emotions, as we've been talking about, and as you display empathy throughout this, you're going to start to feel a little bit of what they're feeling, but make sure that you are being the adult in the situation and avoiding the judgment and avoiding letting those emotions cloud you, and really be echoing back as this is going on what you're hearing and allowing them to validate whether or not what you're saying is right. And then the last step is one you can't take really until they're a bit more in control. So if your child is really acting out and you've gotten to the point where you're really starting to name the emotions and they're starting to calm and self-soothe or react to the soothing that you're doing with them, that's at the point to start engaging in the problem solving and solution seeking. You want to redirect them for the behavior, not for the feeling, and that's really important as part of this. And start to work with them to figure out what the solution is going to be. Now, if they start to get upset as you're problem solving, that means that they're not done dealing with the emotions and they're not present. Think about it for yourself. Whenever you've been upset about a situation, if you haven't had the time to deal with your emotions, an argument that you've had with your spouse, and your spouse is trying to, well, we could do this, honey, or we could do that, and you're not at a place emotionally where you're ready to have that conversation, then you got to wait. And the same thing with your kid. You may want to include in this, as part of the problem solving, some brainstorming about solutions. Let them get creative. Use a yes and strategy as opposed to a no but, where you're increasing the number of ideas as opposed to shutting them down. Temper your expectations as you go this for what's age appropriate for your child. Don't put the solution right there in front of them. Again, this is about building skills, and as you're dealing with these kinds of problems with your problems with your children, make sure that you're catching the times where they are showing that emotional control. So this is a great strategy for when they're in, that tizzy and you're working to get them out of it. And just real quickly to wrap up those steps. The first step is to calm yourself. The second step is to connect with your child. The third step is to engage in empathy and listening. Then you want to check in and explore, and finally engage in problem solving. But beyond those 5 steps, in general, when you see your child suppressing the behavior that went along with a previous negative emotion, and they're saying to you, Mommy, Daddy, I'm really frustrated about, or I'm anxious about, or I'm angry about this, and they're using their words right away as opposed to a maladaptive behavior, catch those moments and praise them, and allow your child to see that you like the fact and you're excited by them using these skills, because that's really what's going to build up your child's overall strength with their emotions, and allow them to reap all those benefits that I talked about at the beginning that come from having stronger emotional control and really develop this aspect of who they are. So there you have it. Some really easy steps for how to become an emotion coach. I'll post those 5 steps in the comments section to this, so you can go back and refer to them in the future. I'll be taking next week off. It's the night before Thanksgiving. I hope everybody has a wonderful holiday. And we'll be back in 2 weeks for another Facebook Live conversation. Take care and good night and great parenting.